Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight, with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio, your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
Aging sucks, does it? Does it for you? It's interesting, when I mentioned the title of my new book, it's coming out literally, I guess, Saturday, July 4th. And I'm going to say 19 out of 20, about 95% of the people say, yeah, it really does. But I get that 5% of the people say, no, not really. And so why do some people not think that it sucks and others do? Well, that's kind of the follow-on from what we had. We talked a little bit about this morning. Dr. Jacqueline was the host of the book launch show about 2 hours ago. And I decided to take my show today, and rather than have a guest, and plus the fact it's also on the July 4th weekend, it's kind of hard to get a guest. But anyway, so today, follow up a little bit. In follow up right on the title, I mentioned earlier that if you remember the old telephone switch banks where you saw the operators sitting there in chairs and they were constantly pulling out things, putting things in, that reminds me very, very definitively of our bodies. Our brain is that big switchboard, and we're constantly talking to other parts of our body. We're sending signals going here, there, and yonder. And so the signals go in, they go here. Well, depending on which direction the signal is going in and what it's coming from, it has an order. It says, do this. Okay. If it's breathing, you breathe. If it's your heart rate, if I need to increase my heart pulse because something's happening. But all of these things are happening. Digestion, also, going to sleep. We have these signals that are going all over the place. And that's part of our process. So when you look at your body in the big scheme of things, your body is always listening, and it's your lifestyle it's listening to. Every meal you eat, every walk that you take, every night's sleep, the stresses you encounter every day, the environment you live in, they all send signals to your brain. And then your brain says, okay, this is what I need to do to adapt to that particular signal path. So if you're listening to the wrong signals over a long period of time, you may end up being obese, may have heart disease, or you may be an Olympic runner. It's all listening to those signals. So that's kind of the direction I want to go to today when we're talking about the show. But red.olaughlin, researcher, writer, over 1,000 original content articles on LinkedIn. I think this is my 8th or 9th book. I'm not sure. I had one book that I published a long time ago that I can't find because the company's gone and I don't have a copy of it. So, but anyway, most of my books are on health and wellness, longevity. I look primarily at the aging processes. Treat a cause and you usually can fix a problem. If you treat symptoms, you'll always be treating symptoms, and the cause could get worse, could disappear. But generally speaking, you don't know what's happening to the cause. So that's the primary focus that I have with regard to aging. You got to know what the causes of aging are, and you got to know what the causes of other things that support your health. So we'll get into a lot of detail on that. But our program here on the USA Global TV and Radio Network is found on YouTube, a couple different channels there. The USA Global TV network and radio network, and Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. If you're not a subscriber, really and truly appreciate you seriously considering subscribing for us. We're also found on E360 TV, Amazon Fire, a lot of social media channels, a lot of places out there. So the background on me, My civilian background is reliability engineering, quality engineering, logistics engineering. My military background, 31 years in the military. I did 4.5 on active duty and got an invitation to Vietnam, did 20 in the reserves, then went back on active duty for 6 years. My last 2 years were in Stuttgart, Germany. I was responsible oversight for 5,500 reservists in 89 countries in Europe and Africa as Deputy Director of Reserve Affairs. So I got an invitation to Bosnia at the end of my career. Retired almost 31 years in the military, been almost retired, getting closer to 30 years. Married, in fact, tomorrow's my 58th wedding anniversary. I said I do to the Navy on a Sunday afternoon. The following Wednesday night, I said I do to my wife. 31 years at the military, 58 years and counting starting tomorrow. With my wife, we have 2 kids, 3 grandkids, and 1 great-grandson. A little over 2.5 right now. And I coach people writing books. I publish books, probably over 50 books probably that I've done for other people. Public speaker, host on the USA Global TV and Radio Network. And last year, 2025, I was the #1 most valuable team player and #3 overall host. I think that's most about what I am. I'm sure there's a couple of things I left out, not critical. But as I get into the book, I think you're going to see that there's some things that I looked at a little bit differently. So I wrote a book 10 years ago, Longevity Secrets for Healthy Aging. And my 2 primary premises were human growth hormone and the loss of the telomere at the bottom of your DNA. It's like a protective cap. And in 10 years, things have changed. We went through a pandemic. Things actually started getting to be a little bit better defined. And I want to alert my production engineer that I do want to have a commercial break in about 20 minutes. So we'll figure that one in, and I'll do my best to remind at that time. So my premise is that 10 years ago when I was doing my research, was probably 16 was when the book was published, so 14 and 15. Around 2013, Carlos Lopez Otin, he is a professor biochemistry, I believe, in Spain at University of Oviedo. And he and a bunch of other senior gerontologists were really and truly trying to define what exactly causes us to age. And the output of that was a list of things they called hallmarks of aging. And these hallmarks are very, very explicit, boom, 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 boom. And each one has a tendency that left unchecked will cause you to age. However, as I'm finding out as I wrote my book, not one of them operates by itself. They all kind of bump shoulders with each other and say, hey, come join the crowd. And so you end up with several pathways going down at the same time. Well, that started about 2013. By the time I got my book written, I was unaware of at that time, something else going on, who knows. And the pandemic occurred. I said, maybe I need to update my book just to kind of see what's out there. So I kind of fiddled a little bit with it. And a couple of years ago, I said, here's some information. So hallmarks of aging, I said to myself, well, I wonder if there's hallmarks of health. And sure enough, same guy, Carlos Lopez Otin, wrote the hallmarks of health. Well, at the same time that he written the hallmarks of aging, it had gone from 8 to 12 definitive physiological, molecular level activities, chemical processes in the body that they said this causes aging. Okay, I think I fixed that one. It's not a result of aging. It's a result, but it's not an indicator. It's an indicator. That's probably the best way of saying it. Yeah, you're getting older, your hair turns gray, whatever, wrinkles, lots of things happen. It's an indicator, but it's not a level down below where it's a cause. So in my book, I explain why that happened and what's going on. Well, Carlos also came out with these hallmarks of health. This is about 2021, I guess. And a year or so later, say, well, maybe there's a ninth one. And so right now there's 12 hallmarks of aging, 9 hallmarks of health. And so I said, okay, that kind of says what's going on. I have aging, I have health. What are they really doing? And when I start going into PubMed and some of my other sources, they talk briefly about the hallmarks of aging cause disease. The hallmarks of health support repair. Your body is under attack every cell, every second, 24/7, 365, your entire life. Things happen to you that cause damage everywhere in your body. But your body is very resilient. It has the ability to counter all of those individual cellular level, molecular level causes of damage. So if you're able to maintain a good repair capacity, capability, you can overcome that aging accumulation, that damage. So when repair is greater than the damage, you're generally a healthy person. However, on the other side, when the accumulated damage gets to a point where our bodies can't keep up with that level of damage that's occurring, now we start seeing two things happen. Number one, our aging accelerates. And number two, our risk of disease increases. So those are the two things there that happen. And you start seeing that, generally speaking, up through our 20s, we're bulletproof. Nothing, we don't care. Eat anything, do anything, we just, everything out. Now, 30, okay. Maybe start feeling it. 40, start looking at it, starts feeling it. By the time you get 60 or 70, really starting to get into that things that just don't work the way they used to work. In my case, I found out about 6 years ago, being in Vietnam, Agent Orange. I had no problems up till about my early to mid 70s. Zero problems, no drugs, nothing. Then all of a sudden, boom, 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 things happen. Sometimes skin cancers take a long time. Some diseases take decades to start forming and becoming a problem. So just because you're healthy at age 40 doesn't mean that at age 60 you're not going to be seeing and feeling things. So I started looking at this thing and saying to myself, okay, repair and damage, that makes a lot of sense. Who else is saying the same thing? Well, obviously Carlos is saying that, and there's a couple other people out there, but it's not a widespread, I'm going to say fact. It's probably, I think it's a fact, but it's not real widespread out there in the world. 5 years ago, if you said what causes aging, you'd get an answer. Nowadays, you plug that into Google, and it's going to say hallmarks of aging. So there's been a change in the way things are researched. So I start putting these things together. I said, okay, I'm going to have my book. I'm going to talk about my repair versus damage, then my hallmarks of aging, then I'm going to have my hallmarks of health, and then I want to have a section in there that I want to talk about 3 or 4 or 5. How does disease progress through the body? What happens? And then what's the solution? There is a solution. And ironically, the solution is the same whether it's health or whether it's damage. And I'll get a little bit more into detail of that in a moment. And then, wrap things up, talk about what's emerging out there that might be the new thing coming down the road. And then got all that written. I wrote that in 10 days, put everything together, and I was a whirling dervish of just no disruptions, just actually writing. I didn't stop to correct anything. Boom. And then I sat down and said, okay, now I need to do some editing. So I start going in there. Let's verify, is this true or not true? Because little things pop in your mind as things you go there. So I finally have my AI after about 2 years of constant attention, where I'm good brainstorming back and forth. Okay, what did I miss? What do you think? And sometimes I get a word, well, that word's a bit outdated. Okay, fine, I'll change the word. And so we go back and forth. And then I go into Grammarly, which in the old days, not that many years ago, was pretty good. Just, grammar, spelling, diction, syntax, those kinds of things. Excellent tool. Nowadays with AI, there's about 10 extra functions. You can go in there and do all sorts of things with AI. But one of the things I really like with the Grammarly is that I can go in there and they can take a look at what I've written and said, well, I have a citation from PubMed or the World Health Organization or some other institute of health and say, this is exactly what you're saying. So now I have a citation that says what I'm saying is true. But in that same Grammarly, it has a fact checker. And I can put down, here's 7 things in this chapter that are absolutely true. Here's my citation that I'm quoting the source. And the fact checker will come back and say, yep. Whoa, no. That source says this. That's not what you're saying. And so now I have to either go to the source and correct what I have on there, or in the case that says, that source never said anything about that. Well, then I have to remove that source. And so I go through that. Another thing that Grammarly does is does a plagiarization check. Am I plagiarizing anybody, even though I didn't? In fact, I had one funny thing happen to me. I wrote something and it says, yeah, you're plagiarizing red.olaughlin. And I'm saying, okay, well, that's kind of neat. So it found me somewhere else saying that this is what I said, and that's accepted. So anyway, sometimes this is, you're plagiarizing this, but it's such a common thing. Inflammation causes disease. Well, 14,000 people probably said that. So it's not taking something out of a specific, So anyway, I go through that part of the story and I'm copying, pasting. I do some more. I take it back to AI. Run it through that one for a little bit. Then I take it back out and I do a quick review of it. Okay, put it to bed. Next. Get everything put together. Now I have a coherent book. I sent it out to some beta readers, but now I need to sit down and I gave it to my wife to read. She's my first line of defense on everything. And so she's reading it. Okay, here's some things, some thoughts, because I want her she's not going to correct grammar and syntax and diction, but she's going to correct, I don't understand this. This doesn't make sense to me. That's what I need. That I take complex topics and I make them very, very, very easily understood. So if I'm talking to you about something that has some weird names to it, in the book, I give it plain English. So if there's a concept there, I'll say plain English. So not only is the technical word there that if you want to do your own research, I chose a plain English term that says, this is what's going on. And so it makes it a little bit easier to understand because some, the clinical gerontologists, they have to have the exact technical language for what's happening in the body at that point in time. Fine. Very, very clear. But for me, if I'm talking about inflammation, well, inflaming, okay. So I'm talking about a smoldering fire. We in our bodies, we have a smoldering fire. It may be just a little fire like that, or it could be a huge flame. But that fire is the inflammation. And then when it gets to the next stage of oxidative stress, then we have other terms. So as I'm going through each of these hallmarks, I'm talking about them in plain English. If I'm introducing a new word in that particular book, okay, here's plain English definition of that. And so at the end of each chapter, I have a key point. At the end of each chapter, I say, well, during the chapter, I say, what happens when it gets worse? So I have, here's what it is. Here's what happens. What happens if it gets worse? What happens when it gets activated? What other typical hallmarks of health or hallmarks of aging are affected that get activated as a result of that one? So I'm giving you kind of the broad, these are all the interconnections. Here's the big telephone bank. Okay, this girl over here has this one over here has that one. When they're all back and forth, she's saying, hey, connect up there. So you get the big picture that this one is not operating by itself. It's actually activating other ones too. And then when you get down to the end, I say, okay, what causes this to happen? I end up with, okay, maybe diabetes, maybe heart disease, maybe something else. Well, how did I get there? Because they're different diseases, but they all started with chronic low-level cellular inflammation in the body caused by free radical damage. That inflammation is unchecked. It grows a little bit, becomes oxidative stress. It grows a little bit more. The DNA mutations are not being held at bay anymore. Now you're starting to get new things growing in your body that become a problem down the road. 30 years from now, you end up with a tumor, or 40 years now, you may end up with a melanoma on your head or whatever. So a lot of things don't happen overnight. Sometimes they do with COVID, literally overnight, it seemed like. So that was the focus that I did. But it turns out that with each one of those categories, let's say inflammation. Well, in order to treat inflammation, I need to do this, this, and this. So I look at what are I can't say two primary causes because there's not two. Inflammation's involved in a lot of things. So if I say I have inflammation left unchecked becomes chronic inflammation. However, that chronic inflammation affects our mitochondria, and the mitochondria is not providing the level of energy, the level of power it's supposed to be, is actually creating problems. It's called dysfunction, DYS function, dysfunction. And now that dysfunction creates inflammation, creates oxidative stress, which creates more inflammation, which now increases the inflammation level, which increases the mitochondrial damage, which increases the oxidation. So you end up in these circles. And so this particular circle, depending on which part of the DNA is attacked, your DNA is pretty smart. It's got 5 or 6 different automatic responses. This gets attacked here and automatic fix because it recognizes it. But sometimes we can't get those fixes done as quickly as possible. So now this thing has a mutation. It starts a life of its own. Maybe your immune system will go over there and take care of it. Maybe it won't. Maybe it'll just hold it in bay for a while. And so as it turns out, our lifestyle choices can either increase damage or increase repair capability. What are our lifestyle choices? Well, diet, I call it nutrition, just to keep it out of the word of diet. So nutrition, exercise, stress management, the quality of your sleep, and the environment you live in. So if you look at it in the old bell curve that comes up and down, that middle section I call it the Goldilocks zone, because in Goldilocks is either too hard, too soft, or just right. So if you're doing your lifestyle choices just right, all the communication is going to your body is just right, you're in that healthy mode, everything's being maintained. But if you're over too little or too much, those signals are going out and telling the body, activate this hallmark of aging or activate this one over here, because that's the way the body is wired. And so those things happen, and maybe the activation is for a neurodegenerative pathway that goes to our brain. Maybe it's a pathway going to our heart, our liver, our kidney, our lungs. So those pathways are going all over their body, telling do this. And I see that my commercial break has passed, so I'm going to go ahead and take a commercial break at the time when my production engineer can make it happen, and I'd appreciate that, and we'll just come back to it.
What if many of the problems we associate with aging are not random? What if there are identifiable causes behind declining energy, chronic disease, and memory problems? We have been told that aging is simply something we must accept, that slowing down is normal, that growing older means growing weaker. But what if that's only part of the story? Why do some people remain active and engaged well into their later years? Why do others struggle with disease, fatigue, and declining health? What is happening beneath the surface? What processes drive aging? In Aging Sucks, researcher, educator, and author Red O'Laughlin explores what researchers have discovered about why we grow older. No medical degree required, no confusing jargon, just clear explanations of what researchers have discovered about the processes that influence aging. You cannot stop aging, but understanding its causes may help you make better decisions about your health, your future, and your quality of life. Because understanding comes before action. Action creates hope. Aging sucks. End the guesswork. There is hope.
Red O'Laughlin again. We're talking just before the commercial break about the lifestyle choices that when you're too little or too much of something, like eating too much, not eating enough, exercising too much, not exercising enough, getting good quality sleep, not getting good quality sleep, not managing your stress, those are the things that either cause more damage or they build up resilience in your body so you can basically fix the damage that's occurring and move on. So as I'm writing my book, I'm trying to think of this thing. Okay, as a naval officer, there's a certain way I look at things, put that hat on, okay? And I'm reading it, and I'm actually writing in a tone of voice that's kind of between my military and my civilian management deal. In my civilian life, I was a reliability engineer, only primarily at failure analysis. Taproot was a program I used quite a bit. As a quality engineer, I'm trying to look at what is good, what is bad. So I'm looking at, is this true or is it not true? Trying to validate that. As a chemist, my first degree was in chemistry. I had 5 different degrees, 7 different professional certifications. So I'm looking at the chemical aspect of it, the biological aspect of it. So there's a lot of complexities going on there. And so I'm putting on a different hat and looking at that. Does that make sense? Can I say that a different way? Is it clear enough? And then AI, what do you think? Okay. And so I use AI to brainstorm. And so I can remember I used the word quaint once for something in there. And he says, that word is really outdated. Okay, so I'll have to find another word. So I use that quite a bit. So I get down to the end. And so one of the things I started doing is read aloud. So I'm a speaker, you hear things, and I'm listening to every word, every chapter in the book. Okay, pause, fix it, pause, fix it. And so I go through there, I listen, fix it. And now I'm going through editing, proofing, and the book is finally to a point where it's ready to go. However, this is the part that just frustrated the living whatever out of me. I'm all ready to publish. That's what I do for a living. I publish books. And I'm ready to get into the final format, get everything lined up, get the books, paging numbers, all that stuff. And it's not working. So I asked my AI, what's going on? Well, we had worked on one of my clients' books about 2 weeks ago, guys. The first book I did in German publishing. And I was having a problem with it. And we probably spent about 45 minutes, the two of us, analyzing why Word is not doing what Word's supposed to do when you push these buttons. Well, it turns out there's, way down in the root cause of Word, there are things that are supposed to be turned on and off and whatever. And there are the little markers there at the top. So literally almost an hour went in before I finally figured out, okay, fix that one, these other ones automatically fall out. And so now I'm having a similar problem, not the exact same one, but it turned out later on that I did have a similar one with numbering. But I'm having a major problem. I think to myself, okay, from a failure, my failure analysis mind says, why did it fail? And from a Taproot perspective, okay, it failed for this reason. Why? Okay, why did that happen? Why did that happen? So you go down about 7 levels of why to figure out what's the root cause. So if I can figure out the root cause, I can fix that, then these other ones tend to go away. But if I never fix the root cause, I can't fix the problem. And so from a failure perspective, I'm looking at what's causing the problem and try to fix that within the Word hierarchy or architecture, or whether it's a subroutine that's being run. So a lot of problems. I mean, unbelievable. I spent 3 different days, hours working with AI, trying to figure out what's wrong. Okay, from put my reliability hat on, why did that happen? Well, as I'm putting my book together, I'm copying, pasting, hundreds of times, probably well over 1,000 times. And every time you copy and paste, you're bringing in the existing structure of whatever that paragraph, that phrase, that line item, whatever that is, you bring it in, and it has hidden characters. You don't see them. You bring them in, you merge them with your document, you tweak them a little bit, but those hidden characters are still there. And there are ways of going down and finding out where they are and how they're labeled. And I'm going through the book and I'm click. Every single line item, it seems, not every line item, but certainly almost every paragraph for sure. And making tweaks to change. And so part of the problem is I'm copying and pasting hundreds of things from multiple different sources and putting it all in one book and expecting no problem. Well, Word will do pretty well for about 20, 30 pages, but you get a couple, 300, 400 pages, and it doesn't operate the same. So that was a lot of frustration. Got through that. But it turns out that if I had copied and pasted as a text with no hidden characters, or pasted as a merge, which are those are the options, a couple of options outside just the paste, I could have eliminated all of those hidden characters. So now, do red.olaughlin, copy, paste with merge, and I don't have to worry about coming back later. But it was a pain in the butt for that part. So there's a lot of things on that one that created all sorts of problems. And I dropped something. What did I do with it? Well, I guess those things happen. I thought I had something. There it is. Okay. So I used all my different hats to look at the book, to put it together, try to figure out what makes sense at a non-complex level. And that's what I was. So if you say, what can you do to reduce the level of damage that's happening in your body? Well, you're eating every day, you're exercising every day. In fact, exercise is one that just kind of blew my mind. I didn't realize how important exercise was, because your mitochondria provide power. That's the energy source of everything that goes on in your body. When you exercise, two things happen. Number one, you have the stress. It's called acute stress. These are minor things. You lift weights, you get a little bit of sore arms or muscles, or you run, you get a little bit of sore legs. That's acute stress. It's stress. It's temporary. It's short term. It's the stress that your body needs to become resilient. So you stress that, your body makes the repairs, you recover, you adapt, and then you get stronger. However, if I'm stressed out because my boss, my wife, my coworker, the weather, the traffic, it doesn't matter what it is. It's really not truly what's happening to you. It's what you reach out there and grab a hold of and you won't let go. That is the problem with stress. Most people won't let it go. And so that stress builds up, and that becomes a major problem. So the stress is there. Lots of things are interfacing with that. So when I'm looking at what can you do, well, maybe one of the first things is smile. I'm in a traffic light. I know that only 3 or 4 cars are going to get by. I'm number 4, and maybe I'll get by, maybe I won't. And sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But if I'm in a hurry, I really need to get through that. I know I'm stressed just sitting there because somebody was texting or who knows what, doesn't matter. Didn't make it. Smile. I'm in a grocery store and somebody in front of me is taking forever. It's just things. Okay. Just take a smile. That kind of, it's an instant de-stressor. Eating. Simplest thing, go to a salad plate. Just put your food on a salad plate. Don't go back for seconds. Your body adjusts. If you really and truly listen to yourself when you're eating, there's going to be a point when you're actually full, and your body's going to tell you. It's going to communicate back and forth between your stomach and your brain. Okay, that's good. And before I knew that, I really did, but it went that quickly, boom. But once you're listening for that signal, you're getting to that point where, okay, I can stop right here and I'm happy. And so that's another thing, is just really paying attention to what your body's telling you about what you're eating. You have your taste, you have your texture, you have the aroma, you have a lot of things about the food. And sometimes you say, oh, darn, that tasted good. Need some more. And you go back and it's not 1 cookie, it's 2 cookies, it's 3 cookies, or whatever it may happen to be. It could be the same thing, 1 beer, 2 beers, 3 beers, 3 glasses of wine. We keep adding on and on and on. I lost probably 40, 45 pounds with Atkins back in the mid-90s, kept it off for 6 years or more. The only factor I found was the fact I used to run 6-8 miles pretty easily, good hour without a problem. And now all of a sudden I couldn't run 2 miles. I can live with that. I don't have to run more than 2 miles. But I noticed that was the only thing that was a factor. There were other things that happened down the road, which I talk about in the book. But I found that a single meal does have no effect on my Atkins diet. So if I wanted one day every 2 weeks to have a spaghetti dinner with lots of garlic bread, no problem. But if I had that 2 days in a row, I would notice immediate weight gain. Well, I go down to Italy for a week. I was living in Germany. I go down to Italy for a long weekend, come back 12 pounds heavier. 2 weeks later, I'm back at my regular weight. So, we're creatures of habit. Habits are hard to break. But sometimes if the issue is really important for you and you got to have a taste of that ice cream, have a taste. Satisfy that taste. Just keep it in your mouth. Enjoy it. But tell yourself ahead of time, that's all I'm going to have. And pretty much you can do that. That need disappears pretty quickly. How fast does that need disappear when there's no more ice cream, no more cookies, no more cake, no more pasta, no more bread? Once it's gone, it's gone. but that same feeling can be translated into it. So I tell people, get a small salad plate, fix it the way you want. I'm not going to go into a lot of details about what the actual nutrition breakdown is, but that's pretty important. How often you eat is pretty important. A lot of things there are important, but it's one of those things that you make the decision. What are you going to do for your exercise? Like I say, every walk sends a signal. Every time you spend an hour sitting on the couch, it sends a signal. Every time you get stressed over something you see on TV or hear on the radio or what, lots of things cause stress. It's what you hang on to that creates a problem. And if that stress is great enough, it's probably going to affect the quality of your sleep. So those are things that we need to be looking at on a regular basis as far as what can I do to help me live a healthier, longer life. Now, my book is not about health. It's not about anti-aging. It's not about longevity. It's about understanding the complexity of the human body. It turns out that the side effect is the fact that, yes, you can have probably a healthier life, but that's not the purpose of the book. The purpose of the book is for awareness and education. And it's a complex system in our bodies, and it takes some time to really and truly appreciate what's going on. And as you look at each one, okay, fine, I can do that. But don't try to fix everything at one time. Take one or two little things. Take one thing. Work on it 3, 4, 5 weeks. Master it, get to the next one. So maybe you get the salad plate and you get that one down. Then maybe the next thing, I got to look at the plate. It can't be all mashed potatoes and steak. It has to have some other colors in there somewhere. So look at what's going on, what makes sense, what you can do. Because those are the things that are really and truly going to make a difference in the quality of your life as you start getting into your 50s, 60s, 70s. And I'll be 80 here literally in September. So it's getting to that point in time in my life also. So I'm going to leave you with those thoughts, and I look forward to continuing this educational process and talking heads as we're going down the road. So I'll be talking here very, very shortly about 23 minutes. I'll be talking about what does health look like, and I'll be going a little bit more detail into the lifestyle choices. So please join me if you can on that, on Talking Heads on the USA Global TV and Radio Network. red.olaughlin signing off, and I look forward to catching you next week. Bye now.
What if many of the problems we associate with aging are not random? What if there are identifiable causes behind declining energy, chronic disease, and memory problems? We have been told that aging is simply something we must accept, that slowing down is normal, that growing older means growing weaker. But what if that's only part of the story? Why do some people remain active and engaged well into their later years? Why do others struggle with disease, fatigue, and declining health? What is happening beneath the surface? What processes drive aging? In Aging Sucks, researcher, educator, and author Red O'Laughlin explores what researchers have discovered about why we grow older. No medical degree required, no confusing jargon, just clear explanations of what researchers have discovered about the processes that influence aging. You cannot stop aging, but understanding its causes may help you make better decisions about your health, your future, and your quality of life. Because understanding comes before action. Action creates hope. Aging sucks. End the guesswork. There is hope.
USA Global TV and Radio proudly presents Tracy Cram Perkins, a dementia caregiving survivor teaching how to balance care with peace of mind. #1 resource for dementia caregivers. It's the book Dementia Home Care: How to Prepare Before, During, and After. Over 17,000 copies sold of this must-have guide. And now a testimonial from Tracy Smith.
If I was to describe this book to someone who is going through a similar situation, I would underscore how important it is to have some sort of a tool or a guidebook to help you through certain stages. And there's so many, it's such an unknown topic to the average person. And to have this as a reference is essential. It's going to help you get through it personally, as well as help your loved one manage.
To learn more, go to TracyCranPerkins.com. Tracy Cran Perkins is an award-winning author. She's also the host of Dementia Home Care television show. Watch it here on USA Global TV and Radio. People are searching for experts every day. Are they finding you, or are they finding someone else? Every day, professionals are building authority through media. We've already built the platform. USA Global TV and Radio. Over 14,000 shows streamed to over 60 countries. This isn't about becoming famous. It's about leverage, visibility, credibility, opportunity. One interview, one conversation, one show, repurposed into content, connection, and business growth. Most people assume hosting a TV show requires a studio, a production team, and a massive budget. Our television packages begin at $1,500 US per month. Professional production, global distribution, replay visibility, built for voices with something to say. I'm Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck, and if this resonates with you, we should talk. USA Global TV and Radio, all rights reserved. Contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com.
How much of your value have you been giving away? Saying yes when the answer should have been no? Lowering your price to secure the opportunity? Giving more while receiving less? Over time, it adds up. Until one moment brings clarity, you've been giving away your value. This is not about working harder. This is not about doing more. It's about boundaries. It's about pricing. It's about respect. From Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck comes a direct and necessary message. Stop over-delivering. Stop underpricing your expertise. Stop negotiating against yourself. Because when you recognize your value, everything changes. Stop giving away your value. Boundaries, pricing, and the business of respect. Available now wherever fine books are sold and on Amazon. A film by USA Global TV and Radio. Executive producer Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Videographer and cinematic production Paul Garcia. Voiceover by Ed Vargas. Stop giving it away. Start owning it.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USA Global TV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.